Welcome to the Cash Car Convert Podcast, episode number 36.
You're listening to the Cash Car Convert Podcast with James Kinson.
Hey, this is Derek.
And this is Carrie from the Better Conversations podcast.
And when we aren't talking about money and marriage, we're listening to my boy, James Kinson, on the Cash Car Convert Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cash Car Convert Podcast, the podcast where cash cars are cool and auto debt is dangerous to your financial future. I'm James Kinson, and I am the Cash Car Convert. And I want to thank Derek and Carrie Olson for that introduction. They're some really great people doing some really great things with their own podcast. You can find them at derekandcarrie.com. That's their blog site. And you can also check out their podcast, Better Conversations on Money and Marriage. Really, really good stuff. They spoke the other day about something that really resonated with me, and it was called Giving Up Your Right to Be Right. And it was talking about how as married couples, we oftentimes get in arguments about things that really don't matter quite so much. And that, if one or the other of us could give up our right to be right, things could go a lot simpler. And they used some, details like loading the dishwasher or how you fold towels and some of those kinds of examples of things that can create a lot of strife and arguments in a marriage that really probably don't need to be argued about. But anyway, they're doing some really great things over at their podcast, and I would encourage you to go over and give them a listen. The next thing I want to talk about on today's show is I talked to you guys in my last episode about the fact that I'm going to be coming out with a book here very shortly. And what I'm going to do with to try and better align my website and my book and my podcast is I'm going to redo my artwork. In fact, this episode, as you're listening to it, you will have noticed that there's some new artwork on the episode. And that's, again, just to better align everything across my branding to have a more consistent look and feel to it. My great sister-in-law, Christina Consenza, who is a graphics designer, did my initial design, and I'm very thankful for that. It served me well over these 6 months, now into 7 months of podcasting. But again, I wanted to do something that was going to align a little better with my brand, so I'm going to bring in this new podcast artwork, and I'd be really thrilled to hear what those of you out there have to say about it. I think it looks good, but the proof is in what my listeners think. So I'd be really happy to hear you give me some feedback on that. The next thing I want to go into here on this episode is last week I spent some time answering a question that a listener had left in a rating and review post. And the gentleman was M. Bundy 82. And last week I didn't know if it was a man or a woman, but I found out this past week that it was in fact a man. His name is Matt. And Matt responded to my response and wanted to fill in some of the details of his situation to better help people understand where he was coming from and some of the constraints that he's working under. And so if somebody is out there in a similar situation, then hopefully they'll have a good takeaway here. And if you're not, again, there's still a lot of good lessons here, I think, for just the general practitioner who's out there just, driving day to day, putting, 10 to 15,000 miles in their car. So to begin with, Matt works as a non-emergency medical transporter or a courier, and that's why he drives so much. He spends 5 to 6 hours a day driving, which he happily says that gives him the chance to listen to podcasts like the Cash Car Convert, and also gives him an opportunity to listen to a lot of audiobooks. So the one thing I told Matt in response is that I think that's really fantastic. I mean, with the time he has on the road, it gives him a really great opportunity to get a wonderful education in just about any topic that he's interested in between podcasts and audiobooks. There's really not too much he can't get some really good information about spending that much time in the car. For those of you out there who do have commutes, if you don't listen to podcasts when you're driving, you're missing a really golden opportunity, whether it's a podcast or an audiobook, to kind of expand your horizons and take in more information. The sports talk shows, the political talk shows, those are fun, but they're not going to help you better your situation. And by listening to podcasts and audiobooks, I think you absolutely can do that. So I would encourage you to do the same. The next thing is that Matt shares with me that there's certain criteria that exist around the cars that he's able to drive. And so the first thing is the car must be no less than 10 years old. It has to have 4 doors, no tears in the interior, no body damage, has to have a working AC, and it has to pass the annual Department of Transportation inspection. So what Matt's driving today, and I found this interesting because I wasn't sure. I didn't know what his job was, and I wasn't sure how much comfort was going to come into play here. But Matt looks like he's a very practical guy. He did go out and buy a new 2010 Honda Civic. So it's about 3.5 years old now, has 195,000 miles on it. Matt did say he's a fan of Dave Ramsey and that he wished he had discovered Dave Ramsey earlier on, and maybe he wouldn't have bought the new car that he did. But given that he's in that situation today, he does plan to try to get 300,000 miles out of it, which would probably be another 1.5 to 2 years. The other piece of good news for Matt is that he spends a lot of time and effort making sure that he keeps maintenance up to date on his vehicles, on this vehicle rather. I think that's a good lesson for all of you out there. No matter how much you're driving, it's so important to keep maintenance up on your vehicle. That's really the lifeblood of keeping your car running. I don't remember the oil company, but there used to be an oil company out there that would advertise and say, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. Basically saying, look, you can change your oil and pay me to do that, or you can pay me when your engine goes out and you have to rebuild it. So that's true. And it's not just engine oil, but, also other fluids, transmission fluids and so forth that need to be changed out periodically. So I would encourage you to check your owner's manual and find out what kind of maintenance schedule your car has and find a way to, make that happen. Keep your car running safe and reliably for you and your family. So Matt's got the plan. He's going to drive this vehicle until it gets about 300,000 miles on it. And what he said his plan is, and he said he's already started saving money, is he would like to buy another, basically an 8-year-old Japanese sedan with somewhere between 100 and 120,000 miles on it, and then drive it for 2 years, and then, as he states it, rinse and repeat. And he likes this Civic because of the fuel economy and because his car has been super reliable. So I think that is a good vehicle. And again, the thing I was concerned about was maybe the comfort of that car. But if he's had no issue with that, then I would certainly encourage him to go back and do something very similar. So he also shares that he's responsible for all the expenses on the vehicle. So fuel, maintenance, repairs, insurance, and upkeep. And he says that sounds kind of bad, but the fact is he makes a really good living doing this. And again, it allows him to work 4 or 5 hours a day. And even that work, he's spending improving himself. So it gives him a really great opportunity to get a really good education. And, at some point in the future, he's going to be able to do, something different if he chooses to. And he'll have plenty of time to study and determine what it is he wants to go into next. So I'm really very pleased that Matt responded. I think the information that he supplied me allows me to give you a better take on his situation. And I agree 100% with what he is looking to do. Buying an 8-year-old car, with 100, 120K on it, mileage-wise, and then driving it for a couple of years. I think that's going to really minimize the depreciation hit that he's going to take. He and I did not discuss how much his Honda cost, but I'm going to, just tell you in 3.5 years, that car has lost a ton of value given that it has 195,000 miles on it. Now, the fact that it's a Honda means it's got more resale value than a lot of other vehicles might that would have that kind of mileage on them. But nonetheless, he is definitely lost a lot of value. So by buying an 8-year-old car, driving it for a couple of years, and then selling that, I think he's going to come out much, much, much better off in that regard. The next thing I want to go into here is growth. Those of you who are listening to this podcast, I believe you're listening to it because you want to better your life and improve it, your circumstances for you and your family. And what I found, I was reviewing this for myself a few weeks back. I'm in Toastmasters, which is another way that I try to improve myself. And I gave a speech about growth coming in uncomfortable moments. And what I've found in the last, basically 10 months since I started my blog is I've done a lot of things that have taken me outside my comfort zone. Things that I would have never thought I would have done. Things I wouldn't have told my closest friend. I've now broadcast over a podcast and multiple podcasts because I've been on other people's shows as well. But, I've admitted to being in credit card debt back in 2009, to, not having made smart car decisions. I bared my soul about my new car mistake and how embarrassing that was. And I've gone through all these things that I thought I couldn't do, and I've done them. I did go to Toastmasters, so I'm working on becoming a better public speaker. I just finished my 10th speech there, so I'm now considered in Toastmasters parlance a competent communicator. I think those of you who listen to the show may debate that sometime, but I'm working to improve that. I feel really good about the growth that I've had and the things that I've done. I've spoken in front of a couple of different audiences. I'm scheduled to speak in 2 more events, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the episode. But all of those things are things that I wouldn't have imagined doing, a year ago. It was not really in my wheelhouse to do something like that. I also sang on my podcast, which was very uncomfortable. And to kind of even push that fear factor further, when I gave the speech about getting out of your comfort zone and expanding your horizons, I actually did that in front of live people in my speech. I actually sang the same song. And it was all of these things I found to be very freeing. The things that I was afraid to do, as I've pushed through them, I felt a freedom, and it's given me more confidence that there are more things that I can do that I didn't think I could do before. And I don't say all that to say, wow, James, you've really done a lot in the last 10 months. I feel like I have, but the real point for me is that I'm just a regular guy. So if I can do these things, I'm pretty darn sure you guys out there listening can do them as well. And I've seen, having spoken to a lot of podcasters and entrepreneurs within the last 10 months, one of the things I really found the most interesting is that even the most successful people, when I meet and talk to them, it's refreshing to really know that they're just regular people. And what they've done is they've pushed themselves beyond their own comfort level, and they've taken a risk. They've bet on themselves. In many cases, they've invested in themselves, and they've borne the fruit of that labor. I remember many years ago I read a book, and they talked about expanding your comfort zone. And what they said is, as you expand your comfort zone, once you've done it, it never goes back. So, the things that I've done to expand my comfort zone, I'm more comfortable with now, and I know I can speak in front of a crowd. I know while I'm not a good singer, I'm not afraid to put that out there in front of people and actually do it. And I've conquered that fear. I'm going to be doing videos for a YouTube channel that I'm setting up related to Cash Car Convert, and that's going to be another hurdle. It's one thing to sit behind a mic and talk, but when you've got to get on camera, it's a whole nother thing. And so I'm going to be doing some of that. So that's another fear I'm going to have to push through. And like I've said, there's a lot of people that I know who've already pushed through that, and they're doing that. So I know I can do it. Now, for you guys, what I'm really talking about is finding a way to push through and get out of your comfort zone as it relates to your personal finances. That may mean that you need to put together a budget and do a monthly budget. That may mean that you need to realize that you're spending more money than you earn every month, and therefore you've got to get yourself back on track. You've got to reel in your spending. You've got to control the person in the mirror, as Dave Ramsey likes to say. And I think if you can get a hold of that why, why you need to do these things, I think it'll be a lot easier. But you're still going to have to push yourself, and you're going to be uncomfortable. When you start driving a car that is well within your budget, you're going to realize that what you drive doesn't matter as much as you thought. You may feel uncomfortable, and maybe there are a few people out there who will judge you for the car that you drive. That's really their problem, because they're probably broke, and you probably shouldn't care what they think anyway. So as you grow and understand that your retirement, your children's college education, the legacy you want to leave for your family, all of those things trump the type of car that you drive and the value that other people might put on that. If you've got good, reliable transportation that gets you from point A to point B safely, reliably, and inexpensively, then that's great. And if you become a millionaire and you want to buy a new car, then, by all means, go ahead and do that. Because at that point, you will have paid the price and you will realize what it costs you to do it. And you'll know that you know how to control yourself and you know how to work for money and to have it work for you. So I think in the personal finance space, I'd like to see you guys let me know how you've pushed yourself. What have you done to get out of your financial comfort zone? What have you denied yourself? What have you told yourself yes to? Have you told yourself yes to listening to nonfiction audiobooks that are going to help open up your mind? That's an investment in yourself, a lot more than a Starbucks latte. So, and I've got nothing against that. I'll go there and have a green tea or something myself. I'm not a coffee drinker, but my wife is, and that's cool. But, I can go there and have a shaken green tea and hang out with all the coffee drinkers, and doesn't bother me too much. I'm going to challenge you, to push yourself. Maybe you don't want to start with finances. I would like for you to, but, maybe you have a more pressing need. Maybe it's health related. Whatever it is, pick an area and push yourself outside your comfort zone. Anybody who's ever been a runner can tell you that, those first runs, they're not very comfortable. If you stay with it and just keep chipping away, doing a little bit at a time, extending the mileage, running a little bit more, walking a little bit less, in 6 months, you will realize you've made a big difference in yourself. And I think it's the same thing with your finances. If you just do those little things and chip away at the debt, chip away at rethinking the way you buy cars and not trading cars in, selling your own car to get more money, making those kinds of changes, small as they are, can have a really big impact in your future. And I'm really dedicated here on this podcast to helping you grow, not just financially, but especially financially, because I think that's such a linchpin. So many divorces happen because of money. And, if we can teach people how to handle money, put their ego in check about the cars as they drive, we might be able to reduce the divorce rate. I mean, there's just, these crazy associations that happen that are all tied back to our money. So I'm going to encourage you, get out of your comfort zone, do some things that are uncomfortable, and I think you will really thank me 6 months from now. So, right now we're in July. So I've been doing this podcast for 6 months. I would really like to hear from those of you who've been listening. If you've sold a car that you had payments on and you've bought a cash car, I would love to hear from you. If you've paid a car off and decided not to just go out and buy another car because you can with payments, I'd love to hear from you. I would like to hear, after 6 months of this podcast, what are people doing? What kind of impact have I had? I've heard from a few folks, but I got to believe there's more out there, and I would really love to hear from you and hear what kind of an impact this show has had and what you're doing to take responsibility for your life and to make it better. And for those of you who haven't done anything yet, get out of your comfort zone. We've got, 6 more months left in this year. Do you want to be in December in the same place that you are right now? I hope not. Take some steps, baby steps as they might be, and start figuring out how you can push yourself outside your comfort zone. Take a Financial Peace University class from Dave Ramsey's team. Read The Total Money Makeover. Read Larry Wingett's You're Broke Because You Want to Be. Read the books by Dr. Thomas Stanley, Millionaire Next Door, Millionaire Mind, and Stop Acting Rich and Start Acting Like a Real Millionaire. At the end of July, you can read The Cash Car Solution, How to Escape Debt, Drive for Less, and Invest in Yourself. So I'll get off my soapbox on growth now, and I'll just let you guys know again about the speaking engagements that I have coming up. I'll be at Podcast Movement here in Dallas, August 16th and 17th, and I'll be a panelist at the Podcast Movement. I would love to see any of the listeners of the show come out and be at that event. I'd love to meet you, love to shake your hand and hear what you have to say about the show. So please come out and see me again. I'll be in Dallas, August 16th and 17th, Podcast Movement. September, I'll be at FinCon Expo 2014. And again, that's a financial bloggers conference. And again, I'll be speaking on a panel there, and that will be September 18th through the 20th, and that is in New Orleans. So I'll be down in New Orleans. So anybody who's down in New Orleans, who can't make it to Podcast Movement, please be sure and look me up at FinCon. I'm really looking forward to meeting some folks who listen to the show, and I would appreciate your willingness to come and see me. So thank you so much for thinking about that. I mentioned it earlier, but I do have a book that's going to be coming out at the end of the month, so I'll encourage you to be looking for that on Amazon, and I'll get you more details about that as we get closer. And also, if you haven't done it yet, go out to cashcarconvert.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see an area where you can subscribe to my updates. And for that, you'll get the 6 must-have tips before inspecting your next used car. So if any of you are thinking, you want to go out and look at a used car, but you're not really sure how to do the inspection, this is a good list of things to do. And I think it'll help get your juices flowing about what kinds of things you ought to be thinking about. And again, I'm certainly saying after you've done your inspection and you feel like you've qualified the car from that perspective and you think it's a good fit for you, certainly take it to an auto dealer, a mechanic rather, and have them take a look at it for you and make sure that everything's working on that car the way it ought to be. I've looked at cars that I thought were going to work out well for me. I've taken them to a mechanic and not had them work out. The mechanic would say, no, this is the reason you don't want to buy this car. Even though these are really good inspection tips and they will get you to the point where you can do your best job of identifying whether you found a good vehicle or not, be sure and take that car to a mechanic and have somebody check it out for you. So with that, I'm going to wrap up the podcast. I really appreciate you listening to the Cash Car Convert. It really means a lot to me. This episode, you can find the show notes at cashcarconvert.com/036. Again, that's cashcarconvert.com/036. You can also find me on Twitter at cashcarconvert. And if you want to leave me a rating and review in iTunes or subscribe to the podcast, you can go to cashcarconvert.com/iTunes. And if you'd rather listen on Stitcher, you can go to cashcarconvert.com/Stitcher. And a rating and review in both of those places would be fantastic and much appreciated. It's the one thing that really helps this show get noticed and helps people to discover it. So thank you again for listening. I hope you have a great week, and God bless.
My daddy's the Cash Car Convert. I love you.